What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's me, CarzakTheBull, bringing you another Infinite Magic Raid video, and today it's about a tier list on epics, who we keep, who we feed, and these are all definitely food. Before we go into why, I want you to make sure you click like and subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know that you appreciate the work we put in. I want to thank Pingu, I want to thank Akos in this tier list. If anyone has any disagreements with this list, I need you to go and complain in the main Discord to Pingu, because he has himself expressed that if anyone does disagree, it's him you need to complain to, not me. Make sure you do. Sorry, Pingu, for the amount of spam you're about to get. Now you know what I have to deal with. So yeah, we're going to get into it. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I love to hear from you all. I really do. Make sure you check out the playlist of all my videos on Infinite Magic Raid. They're all in a section together, so you can go through and catch up exactly what we've been doing on the channel. Once again, thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get into it. So first up, food. This is all food. This is all your food. Feed them. We don't need them. Eat them. Nom nom nom. Just eat them up. We don't need them. You know, okay, some of them you may argue that they have a use, but they don't really have a use, like a big use. They can all be fed. They don't do enough in the areas they're in. Star, yeah, okay, some people are going to say, Star, but why is he in food? He is food, okay, just feed him. Longbeard, okay, he reads nice, but he's food. Feed him. Nom nom. Just feed. Nom nom nom. These are all going to help you progress the heroes we should be leveling up and awakening. So definitely take my advice. Trust me if you can. Blame Pingu if you don't. Blame Pingu if you don't, not me. Okay? And Akos. Akos as well. You can blame them both, not me. Okay, so we're not going to talk about any of these. We're not going to talk about any of these. They're food. Okay, so I'm not going to waste my time and talk about these. But we're going to go up to our first. And they're from right to left. Right to left, okay? These are not in any way listed in order that they are better than each other. It's just an easy way for me to progress through the list. If they're in A, it means they're all equal in their own rights. S, it means that they're equal among their own rights. And Epic Gods means they're equal among their own rights in different ways. So please, once again, right to left, they're listed in factions so I know where I'm going. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's begin. Let's get it on with. Say, hurry the hell up. You just spent 2 minutes, 50 seconds rambling on, Karzak. If you watched it, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's just continue. Okay, so Lutz. Now, I did want to choose Lutz into food because I personally do feed him, but some people still use him. So I mean, he does a lot of AoE damage. He can do speed down. He can ignore some defense. He is useful, but he doesn't do a lot of damage. And that's why I personally feed him. I have other heroes to use, but if you don't have a huge selection of AoE heroes, then maybe you will be using Lutz. Moving on to Reliant next. Reliant is a good hero and she can be used, say, in Faction Tower, Mark of Tower if you're suffering on who to choose. She can increase the speed of all your allies. She can increase the shielded effect by 10%. She grants herself a 20% shield of her max health, which is nice. She can also deal 160% defense damage to all enemies, a 20% chance to reduce their speed by 20% for 2 turns as well. A single target damage, she also inflicts speed down. So she is useful. She has a nice set. And, you know, definitely, if you need to, you can use her. She is usable. I'm not saying any of these in A are amazing. But definitely, she is usable. Next along, we're going to go over to Verto, and this guy actually has a really interesting kit. And I've seen people using him in Guild Boss, and rightly so, and we'll explain why. Now, his ultimate deals 180% attack damage to all enemies with a 30% chance to reduce their crit rate by 25%. If successfully reduces their crit rate, it additionally reduces their turn meter by 20%. If not, it reduces their turn meter by 10%. Now, this isn't exactly the skill I wanted to talk about. It's more his passive. His passive grants all allies 14% more effect hit when he survives. When multiple skills increase this attribute, only the one strongest will take effect. So that basically means if there's someone else buffing us with a effect hit, only one's going to stack, so he would be useless, okay? Now, this obviously increases up to 22% affected, which is quite a substantial amount of effect here. He's got to be alive, though, unless he's exclusive 2, and then that's when it's still effective when he's dead. So if you are using him for the guild boss, you can have him at any level. You'd have to awaken him, obviously, to exclusive him. Level 2 exclusivity, he can become quite helpful for your team, especially if you don't have the likes of Lamb, okay, I'm going to stop right there. We're just going to talk about each hero. I'm not going to compare. But yeah, he is useful. He does have a nice little kit. His second, he increases all allies' attack by 40% for 2 turns. That is very useful, especially if you're using a nuke team. But we're not using him for that. We're using him for that effect hit passive. And when he's dead, it doesn't matter. So he hasn't got to be built. He just got to be exclusive 2, and he's useful. His basic means that he does 180% attack damage, 30% chance to reduce their effect hit by 25% for 2 turns. Moving along to... what's his name? Is this Ross? No, it's Justy. Sorry, there's so many characters, I do get confused. Moving along to Justy. Now, Justy is this dude here, just before anyone says they're lost already. We're not lost, we're right here, okay? Victory Rush is his ultimate. It deals 240% attack damage, and there's also a spelling error on there, guys. If any mods are watching, it actually says attack DGM when it says PDMG, so maybe report that. That needs to be fixed, please. To a single enemy. This skill has 30% more crit damage if the target is successfully killed by this skill. Cast this skill again to a random enemy. So he's going to nuke, and then he's going to nuke again if he gets a kill, which is useful. Remember, it's not a huge hit. It's 240% up to 360. So it's not bad, and it would mean that someone's got to be low health to be used. But we're considering these being used early game. So definitely it will be killing. It will kill. He can also, his passive skill, he will also inflict severe wound on the enemy to stop them from healing so much, which is also very nice. He has increases allies' attack by 20% for 2 turns, and then he gains an extra turn. This is his second skill, so, you know, we could buff yourself with attack, and then we could nuke as well, which is a nice little feature. At exclusive 1, it increases self-attack by 40%. His basic is just a basic attack, basically. 160% attack damage to a single enemy with an extra 30% piercing rate, which means he's going to ignore some defense. Moving along to Ross. This is Ross. This is why I got confused. Will deal 3 stages of 130% attack damage to a single enemy and reduces their turn meter. This can be nice in PvP or certain areas in the game if you're really struggling and you're trying to pinpoint someone down. So I don't want you having a go. It's a nice way for us to reduce turn meter, do some damage. Exclusive 1, it increases the turn meter reduction to 25%. Remember, it's 3 stages, so it's going to be multiplied. He increases his self turn meter as a passive by 12% at the end of each turn, which increases to 20%. He increases 20% speed for an ally for 2 turns and increases their turn meter by 60%. So he's buffing their speed and he's increasing their turn meter by 60%, which is very nice. His basic is he deals 170% attack damage to a single enemy, increases self turn meter by 10%. So he's just a speedy guy. He's going to really help with a lot of turns, boosting the speed of one certain ally, increasing their turn meter. He can be used in areas, especially faction, okay? Especially faction. So, you know, later on as we progress through the game, he's not going to be only used a bit early game. He's going to be used later on when we have no other heroes to use on that faction. Okay, so heading over to Doom Legion for Norma. But first, there is no avatar for Leuf, okay? Now, I'm going to put Leuf in... I would probably put Leuf in A tier as well, maybe S tier. Okay, Leuf belongs in S tier. I'm gonna come back to that later. Right now, we're focusing on Norma. She restores health by 200% of her attack, plus 18% of max health for an ally, and grants them stealth for 1 turn. So she's healing, she's stealthing. It's kind of nice. She grants a resistance debuff at exclusive 3, which can help her a lot. She's definitely more used in Faction Tower, though, other than at other places in the game, Norma. Her passive is she restores self-health by 4% of max health when Norma takes direct damage. And when she's getting hit, she's healing. Her second ability is she deals 200% attack damage to a single enemy and restores health by 14% of max health for an ally with the lowest health percentage. So you can see what she's doing. Like, she's dealing damage, she's keeping the team sustained. So that in itself is very helpful, especially in faction. Okay, this is why we're holding on to Norma. Her basic is just another nuke, and it has a 60% chance to remove a layer of a buff at random. So if you have Norma, please hold on to her, don't feed her, she will be used later on in the game. Moving over to Eden. Where is Eden? Let me find Eden. Okay, I found Eden. Now Eden is kind of a cool hero. She restores health by 8% of max health for all allies and grants them a layer of heal for 2 turns. So, you know, she's healing periodically over 2 turns. That's 5% of her max health, so it's 10% over 2 turns, which can help keep everyone alive. Exclusive free, she also increases the speed of all allies by 20%. So Eden becomes a very good buff, self-sustain healer for the team. So she is definitely very nice. As we upgrade her skills, she's increasing the amount of max health regeneration. Her passive is increases self-speed by 4% up to 3 times at the end of each turn. This effect, it can't be removed. That's upgraded, and it means that she's going to be faster than a lot of the allies on her team. She has got another buff. Which increases the allies' attack by 20% for 2 turns. At exclusive 2, this does increase to all allies' turn meters are also increased by 15%. So she's very nice. She's just a super buffer, is Eden. She's buffing speed, she's buffing attack, she's healing. She's very, very useful. Her basic, she also causes attack down. There's a 60% chance of that happening, made to 100% when she's fully upgraded. Now, moving along a list again, one more time, is Sadora. Now, Sadora does an AoE nuke, 80%, I say nuke, 80%, which is nothing, okay, but she has a 60% chance to inflict severe wound, which means no one can heal very much. 80%, I believe it is. This increases to 90% when she's upgraded, and we can use this every 4 turns. Exclusive 2, it has a 25% chance to also inflict silence, which is super, super nice. Her passive, she takes 40% less direct damage at the beginning of each wave. This effect disappears after Sadora completes her action turn for the first time. Meanwhile, reduces the attack of the enemy with the highest attack by 20% for 2 turns. This is a really nice passive skill. I've got to say that. You know, she's taking a lot less direct damage. At level 3, she reduces direct damage taken by all allies by 25%. Now that is where it becomes really nice for Sadora. Everyone's taking 25% less direct damage at the beginning of each wave. This effect disappears after an ally completing their action turn the first time. So once they take their turn, it's gone. So it's not like mega. Otherwise she would be a lot higher up the list. But it is still very nice and it is useful. Her second skill, she increases the turn meter of all allies by 15% and cleanses their attribute debuffs. Not dots, just attribute debuffs. That means defense down, attack down, that kind of thing. She additionally grants resistance buff to all allies for 1 turn. So she's cleansing the attribute debuffs, and she's also giving us effect buff, which is nice. You know, it means that we're not going to be getting hit by any more buffs too soon. Any more debuffs, sorry. Her basic attack, she can also inflict inferior severe wound. It's a small chance, however, and it's only a 40% healed, but it can be very useful against bosses. Moving along the list again is Visley. Now, Visley is the one with the Moon Scepter Staff. Her ultimate is she deals 100% attack damage to all enemies, with a 70% chance to reduce the target's attack by 40% for 2 turns. Now, when she's reducing attack, it's attack down 2. It's the big one. So it's not attack down 1, it's 40% decrease in attack. So it's quite a lot. At exclusive 3, she does remove 1 random buff when it reduces a target's attack successfully. So if the debuff is landing, it means that we're removing one of their buffs as well, which is super nice. Her passive, she has a 30% chance to reduce 25% effect resistance of the target when she deals direct damage, and that lasts for 2 turns. Remember, she does have the AoE nuke, and this is her passive, so she has a chance of reducing the effect resistance of all enemies. It's a 30% chance, which increases up to 50%. So, yeah, if you're going to use her, put her in effect it as well. Exclusive 1, she reduces their effect resistance by 50%. 50% effect resistance reduction. She is very handy, especially in Faction Tower. And you guys are all now starting to see why Faction Tower is important, especially for the free rewards. Moving on to the second skill, she increases 20% speed for all allies for 2 turns. Meanwhile, increases 25% crit rate for the ally with the highest attack for 2 turns. That is very big. This can be cast every 3 turns. And exclusive 2, she increases the crit rate by 50%, not 25 anymore, 50. So that is a super good. She's a great support hero, Visley. She can deal a decent amount of damage, a 30% chance to reduce 20% speed of the target for 2 turns. So she's slowing down the enemy too. So she's another buffer. She's another support. She is very useful. Now I want to talk about Egea. Egea? I think we'll stick with Egea. So we're going to talk about Egea. Now, Egea is a really interesting little dwarf. He looks kind of funky. He's kind of cool. He's a sniper. Now, the interesting thing about Egea is that he deals a big nuke to a single target. However, it deals 520. Sorry, I'm counting. 640% attack damage when it's upgraded. This is a large nuke, especially for an epic. Meanwhile, it deals extra damage, caps at 50% of the basic damage by 15% of the target's max health. Now, if we're hitting a boss, especially Faction Tower, Egea, the little dwarf, is going to be pretty handy. Even in Mark of Tower. Exclusive 3, it increases the crit damage by 50%. So crit damage for this little dude. His passive is where it gets really interesting. His passive. He ignores targets with his shield and deals 20% more damage to the target having a shield. So we're going through the shield. The shield is doing nothing. He's just nuking through the shield. It's like a piercing bullet. And you know how annoying it is when those bosses have a shield. Egea doesn't care for shields. He goes through them. He's a sniper after all, and rightly so, he should ignore the shield. His second ability is he deals 140% attack damage to all enemies with a 20% chance to reduce 30% defense of the targets for 2 turns. So all enemies getting hit. 20% chance, which is increased to 40%. Okay, so it's not too bad. It is useful to reduce defense down by 1. So that's 30% defense reduction, remember. Exclusive 1, the chance of reducing defense doubles. So it's gone from 40% to 80% chance of defense reduction. And this is super nice. It's very handy, especially for nuke teams. Exclusive 2, he increases his self-turn meter by 30%. His basic attack, he deals 140% attack damage and reduces the turn meter. You know what? After going through Egea's kit, I am tempted to move him up. But I just can't. I can't because there are some better, these are better. But he is very useful and he's situational. And in Faction Tower, you're definitely going to want to be using him. After Egea, we're calling him Egea, aren't we? Sorry. Next up is Wolsey. Now, Wolsey is an interesting poison damage dealer. And he really does have a really in-depth kit to read. So bear with me, okay? Bear with me. Some of you will understand already how he works. But he does have a weird kit. So we're going to talk about it. Now, his ultimate, he deals 140% attack damage to all enemies. It additionally triggers poison 1 time. Up to 6 layers of poison can be triggered each time. Now, what that means is that amongst everyone, there can be 6 layers of poison that can be triggered, I think I'm right. I may not be. If someone knows it better than me, please do comment. Meanwhile, reduces the attack by 20% from targets under poison status for 2 turns. If a target is not under poison status, it inflicts a layer of poison instead for 2 turns. So if someone isn't under poison, we're going to be inflicting poison, which is nice. And exclusive 3, he inflicts deep poisoning on all enemies for 2 turns before it is released. That as well is pretty nasty. You all know it, deep poisoning is pretty nasty. His passive skill, he restores all allies' health by 1.8% of the max health each time Wolsey actively attacks one target under poison status. So if he's hitting someone under poison status, he's going to be recovering some of our health as well. Restores all allies' health in his second skill by 5% of max health plus 60% of Wolsey's attack. That is pretty nice as well. His basic, he can do 120% attack damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to inflict deep poisoning for 2 turns. And on the note of deep poisoning, it basically means that the enemy is going to take an extra 25% on top of their normal poison damage. So it's like, it's making the poison damage worse. It's buffing that poison damage by 25%. It's quite a lot. Exclusive to it, it successfully inflicts deep poisoning, extends the duration of all poison effects the target has. So he's very good. He's very good against bosses. If you're using a poison team, you're going to probably want to be using Wolsey, especially with the likes of Walter, with Taff, with Turf. You're going to want to have Wolsey. He's going to make all your damage more and refreshing the poison. So please, he's epic, but he is a good epic. He is a good epic, and rightly so. He deserves his place in A tier here. He's definitely not food. Now let's talk about Lomas. And Lomas is a bit of a multi-hitting hero. His ultimate deals 8 stages of 40% attack damage to a single enemy with a 20% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns. So that's 8 chances to inflict bleed with the attack damage as well. So it's kind of nice. That does increase up to 35% chance to inflict the bleed once he's upgraded. His exclusive free, after it deals damage, Lomas additionally triggers bleed 1 time on a target immediately if they have no less than 3 layers of bleed. Up to 6 layers of bleed can be triggered at a time. So this can deal some damage. His passive is Lomas has a 50% chance to inflict 1 extra layer of bleed whenever he inflicts an attribute debuff on an enemy target. 90% chance once it's upgraded. Now that will work inside with this next skill I'm going to be talking about. The second skill, Ferocious Claw, deals 2 stages of 40% attack damage each to all enemies. The first stage has a 30% chance to reduce the target's defense by 30% for 2 turns. And the second stage has a 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns. And once this is upgraded, it increases the chance of reducing defense and inflicting bleed by 20% separately. So they both have an increased chance. Which then is going to work with the passive, which we were just talking about, which is going to inflict an extra layer of bleed. So he's going to be dealing a lot of bleeds. He's going to be, if he's geared and he's, he is useful. He's not food. It basically deals 2 stages of 70% attack damage, each to a single enemy. The first stage of which has a 30% chance to reduce the target's effect resistance by 25% for 2 turns. And the second stage has a 30% chance to reduce the target's speed. Again, that's going to work with his passive, so he's going to have a chance of landing more bleeds alongside this. So he is very good. Lomas does sit in A though, he's not going to sit into S. And, his bleeds, he's not as good as, say, Holder. He has a different kind of set. We could kind of compare him to, say, Nidrold in the Legend tier list. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Kaedo. And Kaedo does have a pretty nice set. And again, all of these do in A tier. They're all useful, okay? Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about them. I wouldn't be wasting my time and telling you guys why these people are good. His ultimate, he deals 120% attack damage to all enemies and removes their stealth. Okay, now this can be nice, especially when, it's so annoying when a boss has stealth and you can't target them. And this does happen in Faction Tower. It can happen in Mark Tower as well. So you may want to use him in Mark Tower too. A 40% chance to inflict stun on them for 1 turn. Those whose stealth is removed will surely be inflicted with stun. So if their stealth is being removed, it guarantees a stun. So that's not going to work on a boss. However, that's going to work on the ads. Just to note that. And exclusive 1, it increases the stun chance by 20%. And it also ignores Immortal. Which is kind of nice. His passive is where it gets interesting, however. Increases all allies' healed effect and shielded effect by 12% respectively. When Kaedo survives, Multiple skills increase this attribute. Only the strongest one will take effect. So basically, if Kaedo is alive, it means that everyone's getting an increased healed effect and an increased shielded effect. So if you're using like Wim, or you're using Maya, or Magis, or Liz, your shields are going to have more effect. And also going to heal more too. When multiple skills increase this attribute, only the strongest one will take effect. Now this can be upgraded up to 20% increase. So you think if Wim has a 40% shield, it's actually going to make it a 60% shield. So Kaedo is very handy in that sense. His second skill, however, it grants all allies a shield by 16% of Kaedo's max health for 2 turns, and grants South a mortal, so he can't be killed, but his allies can if they knock through the shield. At exclusive 3, it restores all allies' health by 10% as well, and if it's skilled up, the shield is increased to 22%. Bear in mind that you will be using that with his passive as well, so it's going to increase his shield. So Kaedo is a nice hero, and again, I'm going to keep saying this, they are all nice on this A tier. Now next up, we're going to talk about Roselea, or Roselea. She is a nuker. She is a single target nuker, and she deals 300 to 400% attack damage to a single enemy. The more health percentage the target has, the higher damage this skill deals. So the more health someone has, she's dealing more damage, to put it simple. Her passive is basically the first hit on a fresh wave. She has a guaranteed crit, similar to Lester, and it increases 80% more crit damage. So that first nuke she does, she's going to be hitting really hard. This also increases. It also increases with skill upgrades. Her second skill is going to be deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy and increase all allies' crit damage by 30% for 2 turns. So if you're using a nuke team that are focused on crit damage, we're going to get a crit damage up buff, and it's quite nice because it's exclusive 3 that increases to 60% crit damage. Basic at exclusive 1 has 50% more crit rate, and it deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy. Meanwhile, increases self-turn meter by 20% if it lands as a crit. So at exclusive 1, we're going to have quite a high chance, considering you're going to build Roselea on crit rate, crit damage anyway. Now next up, we're going to talk about Frey. I do like Frey. He's got a really long talking set as well. So if you want to listen to me talk about Frey, continue. If you don't, then skip forward to the next chapter. His ultimate deals 2 stages of damage to a single enemy. The first stage deals 100% attack damage with a 60% chance to reduce their defense by 60% for 2 turns, which is really nice considering the next skill that hits, the next stage of the same skill, If the enemy has a shield, the chance increases to 100%. The second stage deals 300% attack damage and deals additional damage by 40% of the target's shield. The additional damage caps at 500% of Frey's attack. At exclusive 3, it changes the extra damage of Sword of Protection and Crash Then Lord to 100% of the shield strength. The extra damage caps at 750% of Frey's attack, so he's a really big nuker. His passive is that all damage dealt by Frey ignores target shields, and Frey deals 12% more damage when attacking targets that have a shield. His second skill, which is Sword of Protection, deals 360% attack damage to a single enemy and deals extra damage by 60% of the target's shield strength. The extra damage caps again at 500% of Frey's damage. You know what's coming in the exclusives, right? It's going to probably change to 750. At exclusive 2, it copies the target's shield and resets its duration after dealing damage. Only removable shield can be copied. So he's stealing the shield, putting it on himself, and resetting the duration that's left on it to standard. At exclusive 3, we called it, changes the extra damage to 100% of the shield strength, then extra damage caps at 750% of Frey's attack. His basic, he deals 2 stages of 110% damage to each single enemy, and at exclusive 1, he deals 50% more damage to targets who have a shield. So if you're fighting people with a shield, he's really going to help hugely. It's going to buff his attack up quite a lot, and again, you're going to come across this in Faction Tower. You're going to. Now, we're going to move along to Maguire. And he's actually got a really nice set. He really does. His ultimate is self-gains a shield by 20% of max health for 2 turns, with a 60% chance to inflict provoke on the target for 1 turn, then deals 100% defense damage to the target with a 60% chance to inflict severe wounds. So I know it's not a huge amount of damage. I know he's self-shielding himself, but he's also causing that severe wound, which is 80% decreased heal effect, which is nice. His passive 30% chance to inflict severe wounds on the attacker for 2 turns if he has a shield when taking direct damage. So we want Maguire to have a shield. We want him to have his shield. Anytime he's taking damage, he's putting that severe wound on the enemy, or at least having a 30% chance, which is increased to 50%. With his exclusive Frey, that doubles the chance to inflict it. So it's going up to 100% chance. You know, to have severe wounds on you is never nice. It's never nice. His second skill, he grants all allies a shield by 16% on Maguire's max health for 2 turns, which is increased to 22%. His basic is he has a chance to reduce the enemy's defense by 30% for 2 turns as well. So Maguire, again, is Faction Tower. I'm going to keep saying Faction Tower 2 and Mark Tower. We're limited on choices, guys. We're limited, and these are useful. Guna or Gunner. I'm going to call her Guna because we have a Gunner already. She is here, and she deals 108% attack damage to all enemies with a 40% chance to inflict 1 layer of burn for 2 turns. She has a passive which gives her more effect hit, 18% at basic, and upgraded as 26% more effect hit. Again, her second skill is deals 2 stages of 140% attack damage to a single enemy with a 40% chance to inflict a layer of burn for 2 turns. And at exclusive 3, this doubles the chance to inflict burn. Her basic again deals more burn. She loves to burn. Burn, baby, burn. 140% attack damage to a single enemy. If the target is under burn status additionally attacks them 1 more turn. Now remember that burn basically means that the target takes 50% attack damage of the inflictor each turn before taking an action. Stacks 2 layers of status to get an extra 300% attack damage of the inflictor with explosion and remove the debuff of burn. Damage ignores defense. So again, Guna is very useful. Now moving along to Pachinko, is it? Or is it Pacchino? Pacchino, I apologise. So we'll talk about Pacchino. He grants allies a shield by 20% of his max health for 2 turns. Afterward deals 110% attack damage to all enemies, which is kind of nice. It's a shield and we're attacking too. This does increase at exclusive level 3. Additionally restores all allies' health by 10%, or Pacchino's max health. So not only is he shielding, is he dealing damage, he's also healing their team members too. His passive is he grants himself a shield by 8% of max health for 1 turn when a turn ends. It does increase with upgrades. And his second ability is he grants self-stealth for 1 turn and increases all allies' speed and attack by 20%. For 2 turns. At exclusive 1, he additionally grants self a shield by 20% health. So, like, he's all about shielding himself. He's kind of a selfish guy, right? I mean, his ultimate does shield the team, and buffing as well. But yeah, he's kind of selfish with that self shield. His basic, which is very important, can cause inferior severe wound to stop the enemy from healing. So definitely don't consider Pacchino as trash. Now, after that, on the final hero of our A bracket tier list, we have Naya. Now, Naya is pretty interesting, and I was talking to Acos about her. She has a really interesting kit, and I'll explain. Now, she deals 160% attack damage to all enemies, with 50% chance to reduce their defense by 30%. Reduces their defense by 60% for 2 turns if self is under attack up status. Now she does buff attack 2 in her second skill. She increases all allies attack by 20% for 2 turns. Exclusive 1, this will increase the self turn meter by 50%. Now if we was to cast that first and then cast Universe, which is dealing damage to everyone, we have a 50% chance. A 50% chance to reduce everyone's defense by 60%. Which means we can then come in with the likes of Margarita, Jennifer, Serena, and Nuke, right? So there's a reason why she's not in S tier though, and you're going to find out shortly. Now her passive restores self health by 6% of the max health at the end of each turn, which is nice. Exclusive level 2, when health is below 40%, regeneration is increased by 100%. Her basic has a 40% chance to deal bleed, and it deals 140% attack damage. Whew, we are done with the A bracket. I hope you're all still watching. I hope you're all still with me. And I do apologise that I'm rambling on, but we need to get through this. So, moving up to S tier. And a lot of you are going to be sad to see Oboro in S and not in God. But he isn't a god in epic tier. I'm sorry, he's just not. He's not. He is nice. He can do a lot of damage. We'll go on to Oboro and we'll talk about why. So his ultimate, he attacks a single enemy and then randomly selects an enemy 3 times, each attack dealing 220% attack damage. If attacks the identical target, he deals 85% of the damage of the last damage dealt as well. It is increased, but it's not a huge attack. It's just not. It's not a big nuke. You know, and it's a randomly selecting enemies. If we could pinpoint and we could get that bonus of that extra 85%, it would be more useful. Exclusive 1 deals the same amount of damage to the same target and attacks enemies under feebleness status first. Exclusive level 3, when Phantom Cut is released, Oboro gains an additional 40% crit damage. It is nice, but it's not as nice as what others have. And he is in S tier. He is still good. I'm still saying he's good. Don't shoot me. In fact, shoot Pingu. His passive is Oboro has a 24% chance to inflict a layer of bleed for 2 turns when he lands a crit. Obviously, we're going to always build him crit rate, crit damage. His second ability deals 240% attack damage to a single enemy and inflicts feebleness for 2 turns. His basic is he deals 2 stages of 110% attack to a single enemy. That's where he starts to get trashed. And that's why he's not in god tier, because his basic isn't strong enough. If it was on a costume, Oboro would be a god. Let's talk about Reeves. Let's talk about Reeves, because Reeves is great. He really is. His ultimate, he deals 5 stages of 70% attack damage, each to a single enemy with a 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns. At exclusive level 2, he increases the chance of inflicting bleed to 50%, inflicts Horrify on the target for 1 turn if they have 5 layers of bleed after dealing damage to the target. His passive is he has a 50% chance to reduce the cooldown of his ultimate by 1 turn each time he casts Rapid Slash. His Rapid Slash is his basic. And on that, again, he has more bleed, and it deals 2 stages of 60% attack damage to a single enemy with a 20% chance to inflict 1 layer of bleed for 2 turns. Exclusive 3 increases its damage by 20% and chance of inflicting bleed to 30%. It's not huge, but it's something, especially for a basic, and it's the fact he's reducing his ultimate cooldown. On his second skill, he buffs self with counter attack and effect hit up 1. Okay, so is that a 25% increase? Yeah, so it's effect hit up 1 is 25%. It is nice. And Reeves is a super solid epic hero. Next up, we're going to talk about Fegan. And you don't see a lot of people talking about Fegan, and they should be. They should be, because his ultimate is he deals 260% defense damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to inflict stun for 1 turn. It's nice to be causing stun. At exclusive 1, when it's released, he self-shields. At exclusive 1, when trial is released, self-shield works 1 more turn if the target is under stun status. Otherwise, the cooldown of trial refreshes. His passive increases 30% defense for all allies at the beginning of each wave for 2 turns. This increases to 60% increase at exclusive level 2. So a defense up 60% is a lot of defense. Now his Sacred Blessing is his second skill. Grants a shield by 20% of max health to all allies for 2 turns. Grants a shield by 30% of max health for 2 turns instead for allies who do not have a shield. So if someone doesn't have a shield, it's going to give them a 30% shield. If they already have a shield, it's going to pop that up by another 20%. This can be cast every 3 turns once upgraded. It's a lot. His basic is deals 200% defense damage to a single enemy with a 25% chance to inflict more stun for a turn, and this is increased to 300% defense damage. So Fegan is a solid epic, and yes, you can use him. You can use him, especially early game too. It's going to help you a lot. It's going to help you a lot. Now we're going to go and talk about Magis. And Magis used to be talked about as one of the more really good healers, but he's just nothing in comparison to Liz, a support like Wim, and a healer like Maya. He's just not. He is still good, and that's why he's an S. Now his ultimate is he restores health by 100% of attack plus 8% of max health for all allies. His exclusive 1 is the fewer allies in battle, the more health restored. It can be restored up to 60%. Exclusive level 3, he can cleanse all allies' attribute debuffs, not damage over time, attribute debuffs, attack down, defense down, that kind of thing. His passive skill is when Magis releases a skill, he has a 60% chance to grant himself a layer of heal for 2 turns. And his second skill is restores health by 7% of max health for an ally and another 2 random allies and grants them a layer of heal for 2 turns. This can be casted with 3 turns. His basic is it deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy and reduces the turn meter by 15%. Now, you can, he's useful, he's a good healer, but he's definitely not in the god tier. He's just not. He's not there. He's just not there. I can't put him there. So if anyone's mad with that one as well, I do apologise. But it is what it is, and you need to complain to Pingu. I hope you guys DM him and tell him that you're just mad at him. Just tell him. Moving on to Mori, and we're getting there, guys. We're getting through this. We're getting through it. Don't worry. Moving on to Mori. Now, his ultimate is nice. He deals 200% to 400% attack damage to all enemies and reduces their turn meters by 20%. The fewer the targets, the higher the skill damage. That's why there's such a big difference between 200 and 400. This is increased through skills. I'm not going to count it because you've seen my maths. It's just bad. Exclusive level 2, he additionally reduces turn meter by 10%, so it's a 30% turn meter reduction. His passive is a 40% chance to attach a 50% leech rate when launching direct attacks, so he does leech as well. His second ability is he deals 280% attack damage to a single enemy, with 30% chance to reduce their speed by 40% for 2 turns. Afterwards, he grants himself stealth. His basic is he deals 160% attack damage to a single enemy with a 30% chance to increase self-stealth by 20% for 2 turns. Now, he is on the same bracket as Oboro and Reeves, Fegan and Magis. And I hope you all agree with these here. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because Biseden was so close to being a god. And he pretty much is a god in his own right, okay? But, again, and like we did in the other tier list with Focus, we cannot give a support that status. Although you're going to argue with me now because we have Wim, Liz and Maya up there. Anyway, let's talk about Biseden. He has an ultimate which deals 330% attack damage to an enemy and another 2 random allies with a 30% chance to reduce their attack by 20% and a 30% chance to reduce their effect resistance by 25% for 2 turns, which is a really nice ultimate. It really is. Exclusive 1, he doubles the chance of Twisted Void, so that's doubling the chance of reducing that attack down and that effect resistance down. Now his passive increases the damage dealt by Biseden by 12% when an enemy is killed. Increases Biseden's turn meter when an ally is killed. So if our allies are getting nuked down, he's going to be increasing his turn meter to get a chance. Now, his second skill is pretty incredible, and this is why he should be god tier. But I can't do it. I don't want to get blasted for it. He selects an ally to remove all their buffs, cleanses all their debuffs. Afterwards, increases 40% attack, 50% crit rate, 60% crit damage, and reduces 60% defense for them for 1 turn. Now, if you're using this on, say, a Margarita or Serena or one of your nukers, they're gonna freaking just wipe out that wave. They're gonna wipe it out. It's gonna be goodbye. And you're not gonna worry about that 60% defense. Like, you can use him in PvP. You can. Like, you can use him in PvE. You can. So if you have Biseden, really do consider using him. At exclusive level 3, the target acts for 1 turn immediately. Very similar to Focus. But he doesn't refresh the skills. So he is super freaking strong. He really is. refreshing that turn meter instantly at exclusive 3, giving them attack up 2, crit rate up 2, crit damage up 2. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I am talking about Biseden and nothing else before anyone says anything. Now, we're going to talk about Ruen. Onto the epic god. Where do I begin with Ruen? He is only obtainable through event points. Is it event points or is it arena points? Event points, arena points, that kind of thing, alright? Now, he has 5 exclusive levels. Same as anyone else, but his level 4 and 5 are set bonuses. Like, they're not increasing speed. His ultimate is he deals 200% defense damage to all enemies. Reduces their turn meters by 20% with 30% chance to inflict stun for 1 turn. At exclusive level 3, increases the turn meter reduction by 10% and increases self turn meter by 50% after casting it, which is disgusting. His passive is the ally with the highest max health, grants ally protection to himself at the beginning of each wave. Additionally grants Ruen and this ally 30% effect resistance, respectively, while under the effect of ally protection. They can share 50% of the damage taken. Dashing Cross is his second ability, and this can hit pretty hard. Deals 360% of defense damage to a single enemy with a 60% chance to reduce the target's defense by 30%. And a 60% chance to inflict feebleness for 2 turns. Exclusive level 2 increases defense reduction to 60% and inflicts feebleness 2 instead of feebleness 1. And at exclusive level 4, he increases speed by 50, yes, but he also steals 50% of a target's turn meter or all of their turn meter if the target's turn meter is below 50%. Now remember, that isn't just removing, that's stealing the turn meter. And his basic is deals 2 stages of 100% defense damage each to a single enemy with a 40% chance to steal 1 type of attribute buff from the target. Has a 50% chance to inflict stun again for 1 turn after successfully stealing a buff. He is going to be insane, especially in PvP. He is an epic god. He really is an epic god. You cannot summon him. He is only to be purchased through tokens. So good luck everyone getting him. You really should be focusing on him. You really should be. Next up we have Liz. Now, Liz has a brilliant skill set. And I'm sure you all know how good Liz is right now. She restores health by 10% of max health for all allies and cleanses 3 layers of damage over time debuffs. It used to be 5, they nerfed it to 3. 3 is enough. Grants them a shield by 20% of Liz's max health for 2 turns. Now, exclusive level 2, she restores target's health by 3% of the max health for every 1 layer of damage over time. Debuff cleanse. So any damage that her debuff has done is going to be pretty much healed. At exclusive level 3 is where she becomes crazy. She will increase the shield strength provided by resurrection to 40% of max health. Now her passive is she restores self health by 3% of max health for every 1 debuff inflicted on an enemy. Remember, she does cause health burn on her basic. Restores HP by 80% of attack plus 6% of max health for an ally and grants some resistance debuff for 1 turn on her second skill. Now her basic is deals 180% attack damage to a single enemy, 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of health burning for 2 turns, and we're stacking her in max health. She's gonna do some nice damage. Now, moving on to Wim. Everyone's loving Wim at the moment. Yes, I know, rightly so. Wim is good. Wim is very good. And I personally do like Wim. I'm just looking for him. So why is Wim so good? We'll talk about it. He grants a shield by 40% to all allies for 2 turns. Now, this is a 6-turn cooldown to begin with. It does reduce down to 4. However, at exclusive 1, the shield granted lasts for 3 turns. So it's only 1 turn effectively that we're going without a shield, and that's a 40% shield. That's big. Exclusive level 2, Wim gains 1 more action turn after he releases Warrior's War. So when he is buffing his shield, he's getting another turn. Now, his passive is for every ally whose health is below 24%, Wim grants him a shield by 20% of his max health when he survives for 2 turns. The skill cooldown of that can be reduced by 1 at exclusivity 3, but really just focus Wim to get into exclusive level 2, and that's enough. Now his second skill is he deals 100% defense damage to an enemy and another 2 random enemies and grants all allies consolidation 1, which reduces 20% of the damage taken. His basic is just a straight up single defense damage to a single enemy. So Wim is definitely earning his right as an epic god. Now let's talk about Maya. She is a great healer, especially as an epic. She is god level. She loses Maya loses 35% of her max health and restores all allies' health 3 times, each time restoring 8% max health. Before the first restoration, she grants a target consolidation 1 for 2 turns if their health is full. So if her allies are full on health, she's going to grant them buffs. Before the second restoration, grants them 15% of his shield. Before the third restoration, she grants some resistance debuff. So the majority of your team is going to be getting a shield and resistance debuff, which is nice. Exclusive level 2, she only loses 15% of her max health. Now her passive, she restores... She restores health by 1.8% of max health whenever an ally takes direct damage. Her active skill at level second skill, I'm getting confused. It's going on. I'm going on. I apologise if you're still listening. Thank you for bearing with me. I so appreciate it. Restores health by 15% of max health for an ally and another 2 random allies, before which, if the target's health is full, she cleanses 3 layers of damage over time debuffs from them and grants them heal for 2 turns. That's her second ability. Basic ability, she will deal 120% damage to a single enemy and restores health by 5% of the max health for all allies. Now, there is a thing with Maya. If you get her to exclusive level 3, she will restore her health by 100% of max health immediately if she takes fatal damage. It can only be triggered once per wave. So bear that in mind when attacking in PvP. Moving on to Hardac. And Hardac is a beast. He's so good. He's defensive as hell. He's just so good. His ultimate is he deals 2 stages of 100% defense damage to all enemies. At exclusive level 2, he gains 60% defense for 2 turns before casting, which means he's buffing his damage even more. His passive is Hardac has 10% more defense and won't take crits from enemies whose defense is lower than his own. So he's not going to be taking crits. His second skill, he gains consolidation 1 for 2 turns and then deals 280% defense damage to a single enemy. At exclusive level 3, if reinforcing attack kills the target successfully, it is triggered again on a random enemy. So if you're nuking down someone, you have enough defense, it's going to trigger again. His basic, he deals 140% defense damage to a single enemy and gains a shield by 5% of his max health. The shield gained by this attack can be stacked up to 5 times. So Hardac is definitely an epic god. And, you know, I know the likes of Ursh is using Hardac a lot at the moment. He uses him in a lot of places. He is great. Secondly, second to last, but last but not least, we have Lester. And Lester is a fantastic hero who I've used from the beginning of Global. The great thing about Lester is we'll talk about his passive first. See, Lester gains a guaranteed crit for 1 turn at the beginning of each wave. Afterwards, he gains a guaranteed crit every 4 turns for 1 turn. While guaranteed crit is in effect, he gains 30% more crit damage. Now, he has elite trait by 30% when he has a guaranteed crit. And remember that he has a big AoE nuke, starting at 260% attack AoE damage, up to 320% attack damage. Now, at exclusive level 1, he has a 40% chance to inflict a layer of burn for 2 times as well. And at level 3, it doubles the chance of penetrating shell and piercing shell and hail of bullets. So all of his abilities, they all have a 30% piercing rate when Lester has a guaranteed crit. So not only is he guaranteed to crit, he's going to be ignoring 30% damage as well. His second ability is deals 200% attack damage to a single enemy with 60% chance to reduce their defense by 60% for 2 turns. This is super nice, especially used in conjunction with Zeo, which is what I'm doing. It helps a lot. His basic is he deals 160% attack damage, 30% chance to reduce their defense by 30% for 2 turns. Oh, we're there. We're on to the last one. We made it. We made it. If you all did watch this video, thank you so much. So much. Your support is incredible. If you did watch this far, please do comment below. Let me know so I can thank you for supporting me. Thank you. Let's talk about Holder. our last but not least, final, epic god hero. Arrogant is his first skill we're going to talk about, which is his ultimate. So Holder increases his attack by 20% for 2 turns. Meanwhile, grants himself counter-attack for 3 turns afterward. He gains 1 more action turn. So not only does he do this, he also gains another action turn. Pretty crazy when you look at it. This reduces down to 4 turns once it's upgraded, and at exclusive level 3, the duration of counter-attack inflicted by Arrogant is extended by 1 turn. If Self is in attack up status, increases self-attack by 40% for 2 turns. His passive, he deals 24% more direct damage to any target under bleed status, so you'll be dealing more direct damage if the enemies have bleed status, which you can guarantee if you have the effect hit on your Holder, they are gonna be bled. At exclusive level 2, if Holder attacks a target under bleed status, the direct damage dealt by this skill is additionally increased by 5% up to 25% for every layer of bleed the target has. His second skill, which is Death Storm, deals 2 stages of 50% attack damage each to all enemies with 20% chance to inflict, you guessed it, bleed. It is only 20%. It's not a huge chance to land. It really isn't. But it is nice, and it is a small cooldown. It's definitely a good skill. His basic, it deals 2 stages of 60% attack damage, each to a single enemy, with a 20% chance to inflict another layer of bleed for 2 turns. Once again, it is only a 20% chance, so that's why we need a lot of effect here on Holder. Okay, guys. We are done. We are done. It's been an hour of recording. I now have to go and edit this, so if you're watching the video, please do appreciate the work I put into this, talking about all of these heroes from A to Epic God. All I hope is that it really helped you understand each of these heroes better and why they need to be used and not fed. Please save the lives of these heroes in Infinite Magicraid. Other than these ones, you can feed these. Feed them. Gone. Finito. Feed them. Finish them. Level up ones that matter, because these do not matter. And I'm sorry to the developers who put time into creating these. They need buffs. They need buffs in order to be saved. They need buffs. So if you don't like seeing them in the food section, please buff these heroes. I'm CarzakTheBull. Make sure you like and subscribe. Once again, everyone, thank you so much. Take care.